Looks like we have some people joining. For those who are joining, I'd love to know where you guys are calling in and participating from in the chat. Get some excitement for our webinar. We're going to start in a few minutes here, but love to know where everyone's from. I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina. It's a little bit nicer today. We were supposed to get some snow over the weekend after that huge north and eastern
And I am
storm.
in Utah, and we've supposed to begin snow for about 2 months, and still hasn't happened yet. We're welcome.
I'm not a big fan of the snow. Got away from it. Got South Carolina, Oregon. We're all over. It's so exciting. We're going to go ahead and get started right at 2 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Mountain. So we're going to go ahead and wait just 1 or 2 more minutes. And then we'll hop into our super exciting webinar. So excited to have people joining in. Hopefully we get a few more people if they refresh their screens. I know sometimes it doesn't load right away. But we'll go ahead and hop in just a short minute. So we're going to get started in a minute. And you're just joining us. Just as a reminder, our webinar today is going to be about closing solar deals without losing that momentum. So get pumped for all of the really fun details and stories we have to share with you all. But I am going to go ahead and get started. I'm too excited. So welcome to How to Close a Solar Deal Without Losing Momentum at the Finish Line. We are here today to really talk about the real friction and how this webinar is not about blaming reps or replacing tools. It's about removing friction at the most important moment of the deal process. Most deals don't fall apart because of objections. They stall because of confidence drops. These small moments of friction create hesitation. And it's important to note that momentum doesn't disappear, it leaks. So we're going to pause so we can introduce ourselves. I'm Victoria. I'll be your host. I am Solo's product marketing manager. I've been at Solo for 3 years. And basically, I am just making sure that I have all the training tools for everyone at Solo to feel confident and ready to use the tool. And Trace?
Yeah, I'm Trace Jenkins. I'm Solo's senior sales engineer. I've been here for 5 years and have been in the solar industry for 12. So I've seen just about every way a job can get stuck. And my job is just to see what processes cause them and what we can do to fix them.
Yeah, absolutely. Trace is the best. So I'm so glad to have you here today to have this conversation because you're the best for it. So I'm going to go through our agenda for today's webinar. We're going to be sharing an experience of a company that has gone through friction and losing momentum and how you and your team can prevent this. We'll also be holding a Q&A session and sharing ways on how to get started with Solo. But before we hop into the story we have coming up from a company, we would like to share a poll for the webinar. So it's going to pop up on your screens. There's going to be 4 options. And the question is, where does your team experience the most friction in your workflow? So I'm sure that there may be more than one option that you want to select, but try and pick the one that you resonate with most. Trace, I'm sure people do feel like they can relate to more than one of these options, and it can cause a lot of friction throughout the process. Is this something that you see on calls often?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody here is feeling probably all four in some capacity. There's a lot of confusion that can come up, especially these days, where maybe one financer only allows certain equipment, and maybe this battery only pairs with this inverter. But the customer heard really good things about the inverter because they asked ChatGPT and they really want it. So many things go into every sit down, and you need to be able to set those guardrails and best practices that make those conversations easy to have without them just being bottlenecked at every point.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is great groundwork for the conversation of our real company story. Looking at our results, it looks like a lot of friction is in aligning pricing and financing, but also switching between tools. So this is going to come really in handy in seeing how other companies can relate to this and what the solutions are. So like I mentioned, the ground that we want to set for this conversation, we want to set this ground of where deals start to break down before the close. We spent time talking to Geneva Putman, who's the director of operations over at G3 Solar, and asked her to walk us through exactly what breaks down after a deal is done, not from a sales perspective, but from ops, install, inspection, and lender review.
Yeah, one of the first things Geneva said was if you don't start it right, then it doesn't really end right. For her, everything starts with proposal accuracy. She told us, I don't feel like proposals are very accurate when it comes to roof layouts. A lot of the time we go to install, things always change. She describes stuff like missed obstructions, panels not fitting in a way they were expected to, layouts needing to be adjusted to make the install easier. And her key point was that none of it feels dramatic in the moment. The little things just start accumulating, and she doesn't want to have to spend time changing the proposal all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where that breakdown really shows up for G3. After sales has already done their job and it's late in the process, Geneva told us everything that she can feel uh, kind of like went up to it could feel fine. There are my words. Up until installer inspection, and suddenly plans need to change. She said that every single job we're doing some kind of revision, and those revisions don't stay contained. Instead of moving forward, she explained how now we have to resend plans to the city, we have to resend plans here, and sometimes they have to redo plans entirely. And from the homeowner's perspective, that can be very confusing. You know, sometimes she told us that they don't understand what's going on. It's we just changed a little bit. Why do we have to go through all of this again? And that's where the confidence really starts to wobble.
Yeah, I mean, she had an example where a job took 16 different designs to get it to what the lender wanted, and the process took an entire week. It by no means was a super complex job at all, but it did mean that ops was carrying that cost for her. And the job became way more expensive because she was having to spend her time doing it, and that's not something she should have to spend her time doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we did ask what she wishes was different, her answer was pretty clear. Uh, she said that she really wanted their team's proposals to be as accurate as possible because that's where the dominoes towards the end. And she told us directly, if the proposal was right at the beginning, we could basically disregard all of that. She contrasted this with her experience using Solo.
Yeah, she let us know that she loved using our shade reports a lot more. When the lenders see a solar proposal, it gave them more confidence. And from an operations standpoint, she just really valued the control. She said she could fine tune things herself. She didn't have to go back and refresh since it's all in a living document. She can adjust it even when she's on the phone with the customer and have an answer immediately when no customer wants to sit on the phone with somebody that's talking about their project. And for her, the bottom line was simple: it was just make the process smoother at the end, which is what she cares about in her role.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the pattern that we're unpacking today. When systems hold, confident holds, and the momentum makes it all the way to close. And this kind of leads into the overall, if your system can't keep up at close, it's your reps that end up carrying that risk.
Yeah, if reps are left running the show on their own, every clunky tool or extra step just slows things down. They're reliant on systems that take care of them, and customers are relying on the rep to keep everything moving slowly. So whenever that chain breaks, everybody's going to feel it. And that kind of leads into what I think is the biggest part of this is just silent deal killers. Because one thing I've noticed over the years is that the moments that really sink a deal similar to what Geneva was saying, aren't loud or dramatic. It's not some big mistake with the yelling customer. It's the quiet stuff that slowly chips away at their confidence. Maybe a rep isn't communicating clearly, the process feels confusing, or the customer feels out of the loop. And just little by little, doubt creeps in. Before you know it, customers cold feet out the door. Companies I've seen that avoid this, they haven't stopped making mistakes. They're not perfect. They're just understand that they have to catch those small friction points and manage them thoughtfully. And the great part about that is that it works at any size, and scalability. It doesn't matter if it's happening to a small team or a large enterprise, just because it's about noticing what's undermining their confidence and just acting before it grows. And that kind of awareness is what's going to keep the process feeling smooth and the customer confident that you are handling them with care.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, this really ties into how Solo is able to be a solution, but also like there is that frustration with friction. So why not use a tool that is functional and can really help with that? And that kind of can lead into some of our common questions. Kind of like, how do teams avoid overwhelming reps with too many tools while still supporting the full sales process?
Yeah. If reps are redoing the same work across multiple systems, then the tools they're using are creating friction instead of flexibility. Whether it's running multiple applications, having to run the same info in your CRM, or restarting proposals because the customer wants to see a bunch of options. You want stuff to be streamlining all of those conversations, not roadblocking. Even if it's giving you a lot of options that could fit what the customer's doing, if you have to trip over yourself to find it, the customer's not going to feel like they're being impressed by it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's awesome is how with our CRMs, we're able to use not our CRM, but with CRMs that customers use, we're able to, work with them with API and webhooks, and we're able to kind of make it adaptable for them. So that's really a great tool to have and an option. How do you avoid situations where reps price confidently upfront and discover margin issues later?
Yeah, this has been a big one lately. The main issue is when internal costs aren't clear. If PPAs define everything, for example, in kilowatt hour rate instead of a price per watt rate, reps often have to like reverse engineer the pricing to figure out what they're going to make, and that can leave room for error. On top of that, some other costs can come in, like travel, or having to add in additional stuff for a utility, like AC disconnects or any other equipment that's going to cost, trenching, everything like that. Trying to break down as much of that upfront costs, includes stuff as needed, is going to help the customer feel confident. And because nobody wants to have to call the customer afterwards and say, hey, we need a change order for this updated price, and you don't really have a great way of explaining why it went up. Because for them, nothing changed, but for you, your costs weren't aligned, and they now have to take the brunt of that.
Yeah, which I can imagine can be a little bit overwhelming. So we have a next question, but before I hop into question 3, if anyone watching has any questions for us to answer about kind of the friction, and if you're dealing with friction and want some help, or what's the right tool, go ahead and put that in the chat. We'd love to answer any questions that you have of it about anything that we went over. So we're going to move on to the next question, but I'll be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, please put them in, and we'd love to give you some feedback and give you an answer. So going into question 3, we noticed customers asking tiny clarifying questions late in the process, and deals start to drag. How do teams prevent that from killing sales without turning into a full education session?
Definitely. Yeah. Customers rarely need any kind of full technical detail of stuff. They don't need a full sit down and education in it. They usually just need to visualize and know the context of all the bigger aspects of the project. So they want to know the look, the process, the cost, and why it matters that they should be going solar now. And then just have the ability to go back and reference those items even after the rep has left. Your proposal isn't just for the sale. It should be a roadmap for the customer to understand the entire process, so they can know where they're at, even if they're not wanting to, constantly be in contact with the rep or your company to know where everything is.
That's great about the solar proposal too, is that it has the capability, like once the customer has it, the homeowners, they can access it. They can reference what was talked about. And if they have any questions, they're able to reach out to their rep to get further clarification if needed. But what's great about the proposal is it's very friendly with this description. It's not overly technical, and they can access the information that pertains to them, which is exactly the tool that they need when making a decision when it comes to solar. Last question is, follow-ups matter, but many updates can hurt confidence. How do you prevent that?
That's definitely a big one. Nobody wants to reach out more than they have to. Every time you talk to a customer, it could be the straw that breaks the camel back. And so it's really not about frequency. It's just about predictability. Only reaching out for problems, and they're just going to get anxious whenever you call them. And if you're just calling them with every little thing that goes by, they're just going to get fatigued and be less and less excited for this big step for their energy independence that they're wanting to do. So your communication just needs to be intentional, and ideally during the time when the customer is explaining, or the rep is explaining to the customer the whole timeline of the job, that they have a rough idea of when they're going to hear from them. Like, hey, here, we'll call you for your survey. We'll call you when we're submitting to the city. We'll call you when we got your permits back and can schedule install. They have something to look forward to, but they don't need to be bogged down with everything that's happening.
Right. Yeah. I think that's perfect. Yeah. And it doesn't look like we got any questions in our chat today, but I do want to let everyone know, if you do have any questions, you can always lead into our next little slide here. Set up a personalized walkthrough or a demo with our team. So there's a button on your screen right now. There's also a link on the screen that says gosolo.io/book demo. And this is how you can ask those more specific questions about Solo and the ability to see how it would work in your sales process. And the next step would just be booking that, and we'll do everything and help you out. We'll map Solo to your actual workflow. So you can use that link again, or you can use the take a screenshot or type it into your browser with that link on the slide. And just as a reminder, today you got to learn about how to close deals and not lose momentum with Solo. And hopefully you and your team now are able to exactly identify where confidence breaks in your close and what to look for in workflows and how to prevent it. So if there are no questions or comments in our chat, I just want to say thank you to everyone who attended. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and make sure you click that button or go to that link and schedule your personalized Solo demo. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Happy closing.